Somewhere between telling Gorbachev to tear down this wall and now, the Republican Party lost the will to fight. Follow me here, folks. I think it's been a long time coming, but we need to stop playing defense and really start holding Democrats accountable. When we have control of the bodies of government, we need to run our policies at 100 miles an hour down the street, down the middle of the road, knocking out every barrier of opposition out of our way. You know, when Obama was president, the Republican House under Paul Ryan passed some version of a repeal for Obamacare over 60 times. When Trump came into office, we had the Senate also. You know what we did? Nothing. Big fat donut. Republicans had 6 years to craft the narrative while people's premiums doubled. Their plans were canceled. Do you like your doctor? You can keep your doctor? No, you can't. It was a direct result of Obamacare, and we still couldn't win the PR battle on it. What did the Democrats do? If you don't support Obamacare, you want to kill grandma. And they won that PR battle. We couldn't even own the narrative against a bill that made everything it touched worse. This lack of Republican conviction has emboldened Democrats to do basically whatever they want. They're ramming down our throats with Capitol riots and making this into a campaign issue. Folks, we have record high gas prices, inflation. I mean, it's through the roof. We can't even feed our babies right now. And Democrats cannot run on their economic policies. They hired former president of ABC News to try and convince the American people that this Capitol Hill riot was the worst atrocity in American history, and it was caused by somehow President Trump.
They came to Washington, D.C. at his request. They marched on the Capitol at his request. And hundreds of them besieged and invaded the building at the heart of our constitutional republic.
Right. Sounds super scary, right? But the ABC News guy and Liz Cheney left out this part.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
This is why Liz Cheney is down 30 points in her primary polls right now. She doesn't want you to hear that. The rhinos and the Democrats, they want control over the narrative. They don't want you to think for yourself about what happened on January 6th. I mean, take a look at how she even alters a presidential tweet. Look at this.
Donald Trump tweeted, but he did not condemn the attack. Instead, he justified it. These are the things and events that happen, he said, when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who've been badly and unfairly treated for so long. As you will see in the hearings to come.
Left off the last sentence of the tweet because it didn't fit her narrative. She forgot to read it, where he told people to go home, which they highlighted by accident. I mean, folks, you can't make this stuff up. Unbelievable. We're going to break all this down a little bit at the end of the show with Attorney General Matt Whitaker later in the hour. But Democrats have no shame in how they try to spin the truth. Chuck Schumer essentially endorsed violence against Brett Kavanaugh by name. Look at this.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Right. Sure enough, someone goes to his house with the intent to kill him. Joe Biden, by the way, still over a week later, has not condemned it, which is insane, because we don't put the same pressure on them that they put on us. Again, folks, we let them own the narrative. Have you ever noticed that any shooter that has any ties to, pick one, radical Islam or the Democratic Party, or it's an isolated incident, they say. The ethnicity of a shooter never matters, unless he's white. And then it's, we need to have a national conversation about violent white supremacy. And of course, every Republican rushes to denounce white supremacy, because in case the lib media is actually watching right now, because no mainstream Republican supports that stuff. But yet here we are, always on defense about it. We let gun grabbers own the airwaves. What part about shall not be infringed do they not understand? How about taking the fact that over 90% of these mass shootings happen in the very gun-free zones whose legislation was inspired by Joe Biden himself? We should be talking about the fact that guns, including AR-15s, armor light rifles, by the way, are used in over 250,000 times a year to save lives. Why don't we have that conversation? No, we never have that conversation, because most of the Republicans we elected to represent us don't believe the message that they run on, unlike Democrats. That's why Republicans are always on the defense. These January 6 hearings, folks, they're a complete sham. It's time we fire back. every Republican on that committee, and I don't include Liz Cheney in that, should be talking about how much damage Antifa and BLM did compared to the January 6 riots, okay? The New York Post noted the 2020 BLM riots injured or blinded more than 2,000 officers, resulting in deaths of more than 24 people and property damage worth more than $1 billion with a B, the most expensive insurance in history. Real Clear Investigations also has found that the 2020 BLM riots resulted in 15 times more injured police officers, 30 times as many arrests, and an estimated damages in dollar terms of up to 1,300 times more costly than that of the Capitol Hill riot. And Kamala Harris also raised money to bail those people out of jail. Antifa burned down a courthouse in Oregon. Radical left-wing activists forcefully entered the Department of Interior. Nothing. Nada. Democrats are going to circle the wagons, even in the face of the most egregious feats. I mean, look, they're still supporting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris while people can't feed their babies, folks. And what do our Republicans do? McCarthy on tape trashing Trump. Mitch McConnell undermining him while he's in office. I mean, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger. We just had almost a dozen Republican senators vote in favor of a new gun control bill. It's because most Republicans don't believe the very campaign promises they make to you and I.
The problem that we've had as conservatives and Republicans for the longest time, and I mean for 10, 15, 20 years now, certainly since Ronald Reagan, is that as conservatives, we do not believe our own philosophy. Certainly that's true for most Republican politicians.
Yes, he called that 10 years ago. And Republicans never learn. And when Democrats are in charge, they run roughshod over every Republican in their way, folks. They'll do anything. It's so frustrating. All the left cares about is their agenda. When Dems get elected, gas prices double, food shortages, we're seeing it now, the economy crashes. The stock market, by the way, right now, folks, just hit lower than when President Biden took office. Get it? I will debate any issue with any Democrat at any time, anywhere, because my political beliefs work. Theirs don't. If Republicans can learn to keep the argument on the issues, we win. But if we let the Democrats make it about emotion, they win. My only hope is that 51% of the country wakes up and realizes that these $5 gas prices were totally avoidable. November's coming, folks.